All right, what is up? We're going to be covering the Rugby Strength Program. This is the fourth phase in the rugby sequence for the year-long training split. So first starts with GBP, then it's a hypertrophy and strength, then strength and hypertrophy, and now we're getting into more pure strength training. We're going to have plyos and power-based work in there, as always. But with the strength work, we're going to be using something called cluster sets. So a cluster set, the whole goal of a cluster set is to be able to use a heavier load for more volume over time, and we get a greater bar speed compared to a normal set, meaning that you get more power development and strength development with it. So essentially what a cluster set is instead of doing, say, like 6 straight reps, you're going to do, say, three, then rack or rest the bar, whatever you got to do. Rest 15 to 20 seconds, gather yourself, boom, go into your next mini set or cluster set, which is going to be 2 reps, and then rest 15 to 20 seconds in one. So instead of 6 straight, you would go three, rest 15 to 20 seconds, two, rest 15 to 20 seconds, one, and then that is your cluster set reps. So make sure that you're checking the exercise notes because I break that down in there for you. Let's go over the training split. So if you're doing this program following the strength and hypertrophy one, you're going to have built up a ton of strength and work capacity where I don't think this is going to be it's still going to be challenging, but it's going to put you at a really good place to get the most out of this training. Okay. So the overarching split is cluster lower or upper plus conditioning, and acceleration, purely focus on linear acceleration plus a little agility. Cluster sets lower, and then an upper where we focus a little bit more on unilateral training. We're not necessarily doing cluster sets, and then a speed with a little bit of conditioning in there for you. So let's dive into the actual workouts. So this is just a very basic, simple dynamic warm up. If you need to do a little bit more work, like hit a bike or something like that beforehand, or get a little couple extra stretches in to address your needs, please do so with that. So we get our warm up, same structure we've been using, get into our plyometric based work. So we're doing some multi-directional work here. So we have our lateral to vertical here. So we have a lateral extensive plyometrics. Then we have big vertical power output with depth drops to vertical jumps. So with these, you're trying to choose probably like a 16 to 20 inch box. And then as you progress, you can go a little bit higher as long as it's not taking away from your ability to reach the same height before. Okay. So with these, you want to land in about a quarter squat to your normal, like where you would do a vertical jump, like your depth that you would get, and then explode out as fast as you can, okay, and jump as high as you can. So in the beginning, don't worry about how much ground contact time, like how long it takes you on the ground, but your goal is to jump as high as you can and then continue to jump that same height, but get off the ground faster and faster and faster, and then progress the height and then rinse and repeat the process. With the skater jumps, just a couple little plates right here is really all you need, about 4 to 5 feet apart. And then as you get a little bit better at them, you can extend the width out a little bit more so you have more of a lateral push out with a quick transition. And then one of my favorites, repeat broad jumps. Pretty self-explanatory there for a distance. So with this, you're probably looking at about 3, maybe 4 jumps that you're trying to achieve with the 15 yards. Then we're getting into some power-based work. Okay, so we're going to get clean pulls. Clean pulls are actually really, really good for generating the maximal amount of power without some of the technical stuff with like the cleaning and the catching position. So really, that's what we're trying to drive here. Now it says 90%, but this is based off of your power clean. So we are going to get over 100% of your power clean because I really want you to get really good at feeling comfortable and powerful with a heavier load. And this should translate over nicely when we get back into some, Olympic lifts and power cleans and stuff like that. So this is our heavy loaded power based work that we're getting into. And again, with these numbers, we want these to be challenging. We want the bars to be moving pretty quickly, but you could err a little bit on the side of it being slow. So think heavier, a little bit slower, but if it ends up turning into just like a deadlift with like a shrug, too heavy, okay? Now we're going to get into our cluster sets. Okay, so this is where you can see we break it down right here for you, and then you can see in the exercise notes, that's where I have the cluster set reps 3, 2, 1. So in this example, we are going to be using 4 sets of 6, but that's going to be your 3, then 2, then 1. And then we have the prescribed loads on here. So you may see like 90% for 6 reps. Yeah, that's a lot, right? We're pushing the intensity. But you get those breaks in between to keep that bar speed high. But again, this is going to be pretty challenging, but you're going to get really, really freaking strong from it, especially when we take this strength that we're building in this phase and the phase before, and then we start to take it into more dynamic effort-based stuff, you're going to really feel the power kick in. Okay, so that's our cluster set for today. Then we're going to get a heavy unilateral hip and hamstring movement. Okay, so hand-supported single leg RDL. You can set up a rack for something like this, or honestly, like just a bench. But essentially, what you're going to do is on the opposite side that has leg that's doing the work, opposite hand has the dumbbell, and then the same side hand has the support there. And then if you're pretty strong and grip strength becomes an issue, I would definitely recommend like chalking up or using wrist wraps for this, so you're not limited by the grip strength for this because your hamstrings and glutes are going to be a little bit stronger. Okay, then we get a little bit of lateral movement here. I want you to think of this as like a power lateral movement. Okay, so essentially what we're doing is you're dropping in and then you're trying to push and explode up as hard as you can to come back to center, right? You have to push your body hard enough that you can come back to center, stabilize, and then drop back in. Okay. And you're trying to hold your leg up as high as you can going into this and then pushing back on out. So we get a good, right? We get a big, let me see, deceleration, right? We get a lot of momentum, deceleration, push, come back on up, which is going to help translate nicely into some of our agility-based work here. And then we're going to start to train the soleus and the Achilles tendon to be able to handle more load for when we get into our sprinting. So you can apply and transfer more force into the ground as we continue on. So that's our Monday. Next day is cluster upper plus conditioning. So we have 2 different cluster sets today. Again, this is a very quick warm up. If you need a little bit more, please feel free to add some of that in. The throws are going to serve as like a CNS primer and a warm up as well. But we really want to make sure that we're ready to go for these because this is our big like power stuff for today. So some rotational throws and then some rotational slams as well. Then we get into our bench press clusters, and then we get into pendulé row clusters, which all a pendulé row is just from a dead stop position with the barbell, kind of like our Anderson rows that we've done. Then we get a little bit of accessory work, neutral grip pull-ups. Please feel free to add load during this. Again, this is strength focus, so adding weight is always a good thing with these pulls. And then weighted tricep dips, same principle for that. And then we have a conditioning circuit here at the end. So complete the rounds as fast as possible, and it should take you around 12 to 15 minutes. So this doesn't mean that you're going super light on these. Doesn't mean that it's super light here, right? Like we're trying to make these as heavy and as hard as possible for each of these movements. Then we get into our acceleration work. So acceleration post-activation potentiation is what PAP stands for. And we have some of this in our previous program. So we're just continuing on, right? We're just trying to edge out and get a little faster, accelerate a little harder, keep developing that power. So front-loaded sled sprints here, 7 sprints, 15 yards at a 50% velocity decrement. Take about a minute to a minute and a half rest. Boom, get out, run your 15-yard sprint. Definitely recommend that you time these, and then we'll get into a little bit of agility work at the end. And that will change slightly as the weeks go on. Then we get cluster lowers. So we're going to get some plyos. Now we're having a vertical extensive plyometric, again, to work the ankle complex, big power lateral movement, and then it's a little bit of unilateral plyometrics here with a single leg tuck jump. So essentially you're just putting your foot on the back of a bench, jumping, pulling the knee up so we get a rapid triple flexion as we push on to into the ground. Okay. Now here's our like quick, fast, explosive base power work. So we're doing trap bar jumps. These are repeat jumps. So one, boom, 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 right into another. So 20% load. So super light, trying to jump as fast as you can, move that bar as fast as you can, jump as high as possible. Then we get into our cluster for the posterior chain. So the barbell RDL, I recommend that you use this on a rack that you can have some like safety bars a little bit lower, so you're not having to basically do a deadlift and then do it again. And it's easy to unrack and rack. So when I'm doing this, I set it up just below hip height. So it's, and then I take just a quick step back, do my set, right? Do my cluster sets, rack it, rest, regrab, rack it, rest, and keep going. Then again, we'll get into a little bit of unilateral strength here with some barbell reverse lunges. You can do this on a Smith machine. If you don't necessarily have a barbell, you can do these with dumbbells or anything for you, okay? And then we'll hit a little bit of some accessory work, so some lateral work, groin strengthening here, oblique strengthening here. Again, continuing to strengthen our back. And then there's some optional seated calf raises and cable hip flexor raises, which I'd highly recommend that you at least do the cable hip flexor raises to support your running mechanics and speed development overall. And then the final lifting day is an upper body day. So we're going to get into some vertical power, so some split jerks. Really great. There is a little bit of lower body involved. Um, with that, and you should start to feel a little bit more comfortable based off the landmine stuff that we've done previously. But we will be starting to push the load a little bit heavier. And then you're trying to alternate which legs go forward with these. If you are not as comfortable, please don't go super heavy, get the technique down, and then you can progress from there. You'll still get some good quality work. Now we're going to get into our unilateral strength work. So some dumbbell alternating bench press. You could easily swap this for a low incline, high incline, or decline. Um, it's all good with me. It's still hitting the chest, just depending on what you want to target a little bit more in terms of your chest development. So just alternating, that should be higher. And then unsupported row. So we got a big, heavy strength stimulus with our pendlay row. We're still trying to get that strength stimulus with the unsupported row, but now I want to start to incorporate the core, the hips, a little bit more stability, which is why we're doing the unsupported row, and that's really going to help challenge those aspects. Okay. And then again, some accessory work, a little bit more core work. So some overhead pulling work. So we got a big power pressing work there. Rotational core strength here. One of my favorites, landmine oblique twist. Straight up core strengthening here. If you don't want to do these, you can substitute out with another core exercise as well. And then a little bit of vanity here, right? Hit the arms a little bit, alternating hammer curl, laying easy bar tricep extensions, Lou raise again, a little bit of overhead, some upward and downward rotation of the scapula, good for overall shoulder health. And then we have our top speed work. And with the top speed, we have our warm up again. Um, these will change slightly as the weeks progress on, okay? So we have some sprint tech work, we got some wicket technique work, just trying to hammer that in a little bit more. And then we get some 30-yard sprints, and then we have some optional conditioning, which this will change to throughout the weeks as well. So that is the strength training program. It is a good one. You will get really strong. You'll start to get really powerful. And now we're starting to incorporate a little bit more speed. And then the next phase is where we really start to take things up a notch in terms of how, like, the different methods and explosiveness that we're really trying to build. So other than that, I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And if you have any questions or anything, hit me up in the app or book a coaching call. All right. Peace.